We're on page 261. I believe we didn't finish the previous halakha. He kind of cut it in the middle. Yesh omrim, some say, שבתוך רוחב הבגד אין לו שיעור, ויש אומרים שדין רוחב הבגד כדין האורך, ונראים דבריהם. Jack, how do you have the translation of the end of 10?
Yeah, I mean, we can see. What is this, 13?
Some say that the width and the length. Let me see that.
Is this 13?
It's Siman 11, the end of halakha 10. After the Ramah. It should say some say, or maybe it's already 11 by you.
If the corner is what we call in Ori...
No, that's the line right before that. Go to the sentence before that.
Okay, others claim that the width follows the same laws as the length of the garment.
Go one sentence before that.
Okay.
Some claim.
There are,
okay.
There are those who say, some say.
Okay.
With regard to the width of the garment, there is no shiur.
And then the next?
And then others claim that the width follows the same laws as the length of the garment. In their words, that they're correct.
Okay, what he's trying to say, if there's an argument whether the same laws that we applied, but it has to be the thumb, the knuckle to the thumb, and 3 fingers, that place where you could put the hole, some say that only applies on the side of the clothing that is the length of the talit, but not on the width of the talit. And Maran says some say that it's the same thing. It has to be both from the width and the length, and he says that's what the halakha seems to be like. V'nirin divrehem, he says that appears to be the correct thing. It's not a relevant halakha. Yud Alef, im hagdir shekorim or yilio. Why did I close the book so fast?
Is that like a Jewish Oreo?
That sounds like an Italian Jewish delicacy.
There's Oreo.
Is that how he translates them?
Well, that's the phonetic. There's a lamed in there. There's no transliteration. It's just the Hebrew. Looks like a Yiddish word.
Right, Yiddish words look like that.
No, the Yiddish word is krikus. Krikus. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Where's that word?
Oreo.
Oh.
Okay, read us again, halakha 11 in English, because this is one of those not going to happen.
If the corner is what we call in Oreo, see footnote 6.
It's a certain kind of weave. The weave is only half done.
Yes, footnote 6. I guess I didn't do the footnotes, but anyways, and is wide. If the corner is what we call an Oreo and is wide, tzitzit shouldn't be put on it. If one puts tzitzit on the garment, it is invalid, since it is written, quote, on the corner of your garments, unquote, and this is not considered from the garment. Rather, there must be at least the measurement of the joint of the thumb and not farther than 3 fingers, since the hole must be in the garment. And then in parentheses, it's good to measure the joint of the thumb without including the fringes, while measuring the 3 fingers, including the fringes.
Okay, let me explain to you what just happened. You see this stuff?
Yeah. That's Aurelio.
This, if it didn't have knots, would be Aurelio. That's what we're talking about. The reason why they probably did this is a very easy way to finish off the clothing. Instead of having to tie thread all along the end, you just kind of bunch together the leftover strands and tie them. And over time, we've actually added that to our talitot. If I had to guess, this is where it came from. If you would have had this stuff, meaning it is an extension of the strings that make up the talit, and they would finish it off at the end. So you have this part is crisscross. There's a word for it in Hebrew.
The hem?
Yeah, but before the hem. Shativa erev, meaning where the threads actually intertwine.
The hem is when you bend over the end.
This is intertwined here. This is strands that go this way, and strands that go that way.
Yeah.
That's what makes up a clothing. But on this side, you have strands that only go one way without the strings that go the other way. Imagine that they were then hemmed off at the end, or they were, like you said, they were closed off at the end. So you had a garment and then a finish that was kind of just this material extending all along the end. Do you put the tzitzit here? Or do you put the tzitzit actually on the clothing? I mean, where does the clothing end?
On the real fabric.
Where do you count the corner? Is it the real fabric or just the extensions of the string?
It would have to be the real fabric.
So that's what the poskim were saying. It has to be the real fabric. It would be pasul. If you put it here, it wouldn't count. And Ramah is trying to say, so when you measure, you should measure this, but also this, depending how you do it. In any case, you'll notice that in most talitot, this stuff stops here. It's not really relevant for an Ashkenazi or a Sephardic talit. Do you want to know where it's relevant? In the Yemenite talit.
Going right here.
This is where Jews got their smarts in the shmata business.
Yeah, shmata business. Yeah. This is how Brooklyn and Queens
So get
got
the
started.
cloth and you look at the end and make sure the
In a
threads are all
Yemenite
tied
talit,
together. There's another shmata.
Don't call that a shmata.
the corner actually has these strands on it. Meaning other talitot would stop right here,
Oh yeah, they have like
You-
but
chain.
ours continues.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Um, Some rabbis actually say that this invalidates the talit, because this could count as tzitzit. Technically, it comes from the corner and it's this. But whatever, this is not for this part of the discussion. But here it would be. Let's say this wasn't made knotted like this, but it just extended down, including the corner. You would have to tie your talit here, your tzitzit here, and not actually down here where the tassels are. I don't know what they're called, fringes. That's what I think of when I say
Does
fringes.
that come from a different style of weaving garments in Yemen, Teman, or is that a minhag to specifically do
No, it's not a minhag to specifically have it, but my thought is that that's probably the most natural way to do it, to have the whole length of the clothing knotted like this. And because they were worried with halachic problems, so most other communities just stopped. They found a different way to do the corner. That's probably what happened. But why the Yemenites still do it, I have no idea.
I think it has to do with the type of looms that they use.
It could be. It
There's
could
a
be.
very, very specific tradition of weaving in Teman, just like they have like metallurgy,
skills.
those special cups and metallurgy.
It could be,
Jews
no,
were Muslims weren't allowed to do it, so Jews became experts at it.
I would tell you the truth is that my
And Muslims were allowed
grandfather,
to do like tinsmithing and
Right,
silversmithing
in North
and stuff.
Africa too.
my grandfather told me it's not a Yemenite talit because in Yemen they didn't have such talitot. They kind of just had bed sheets with strings on them. So he said it's nice they call it a Yemenite talit, but it's not really.
Are those scarves that you see like in conservative? Are those halakhically okay?
No, I mean they're okay. They're like scarves.
But
It's
are
talitot.
there laws how wide a talit has to be?
Yes, we mentioned that. Remember, it has to cover your body. If you were a 9-year-old, 10-year-old boy, would you be able to walk outside of it? So those are definitely don't count.
So the important question is, does it matter which talit the guy jumped out of the plane thought it was a parachute?
Very good.
Open.
Probably poor Yemenites, they get all the trouble.
They hang on to the tzitzit.
Yemenite shofars also got a bad rap, right? They call them
Right, but they're not even Yemenite shofars. I mean, the Yemenite shofar is not actually a Yemenite shofar because Ashkenazim and Sfaradim are allowed to blow the Yemenite shofar because according to Maran, all shofars are kosher if they have a twist in them. The Ethiopian shofars are not kosher according to any opinion. That long,
That's long
the long black one that's
The
just
ibex,
straight,
yeah.
the ibex straight, that's not kosher because it doesn't have, it's not a,
no twist.
it doesn't have a twist, not a horn.
It's also you can't get the same sound out of it because of that size.
Could be, I don't know, I've never
You
blown one.
can't get on a straight tube. It's going to be a different sound.
So Maran says the only shofar that's not kosher is a cow's horn. An ox, I guess that's the one he's referring to, because it's not considered a horn. It's called a different word in Hebrew. It's called a keren, not a shofar. And the Yemenite one is kosher for Sfaradim, maybe according to Ashkenazim too, but according to the Yemenites, it's not kosher because the Rambam says the only shofar that's really kosher is the one from Iran, and so this is not from Iran. So how that got the name Yemenite shofar, I don't know. But the only Jews that are not allowed to blow that shofar on Rosh Hashanah are Yemenites. So go figure.
What are you?
Over here. That's a great one, yeah. Or the over.
We're now on page 262, top of the page.
Aurelio.
Oh, we're back to normal halakha. Finally.
What page?
262. All right. Minyan chutei hatzitzit. The number of strings you have to have in the corner of your tzitzit, bechol kanaf, on every corner, arba'a kfulim shehem shmona. 4 strings that are doubled over, which creates 8 strings. So you have 4 long strings, you put them to the corner, they both hang down, you now have 8. Vim hosif, pasul. If you add another string, it's not kosher. יחתוך ראשי החוטין הארבעה ויכתבם בכנף ויכפלם ואז יהיה 8. What he's saying is you would take the 4 strings and you would cut them so that they make 8. Imagine that if you had 1 long string, you could technically put it through the you could take 1 long string and cut them to make the 4 strings that it will then be 8 strings. Maran is telling you you need to have 8 strings inside of your tzitzit. It cannot be more than that. The way Chazal got to the number 4, which is 8, is the Torah says that you have to have gdilim. Gdilim are fringes on the corners of your clothing. And in the street, a gdil is more than just fringes, not 1 string. Gdil is 2 strings together. And so gdilim is plural of 2 strings, it's 4. That's how our rabbis got to the conclusion that there have to be 4 strings, which are then 8 when you double them over. The Rambam, you should know, in his Mishnah Torah says that according to the Torah, technically, there is no right or wrong number of tzitziot, but our rabbis interpreted it and told us what number of tzitziot you need to have. Now Maran tells us the second halakha on page 265. Yizaher lachtoch rashei hachutim. You should be careful to cut the strings, la'asotam shmona, to make them 8, kodem sheichroch, before you tie them. Remember we said that tzitziot, when you make them, they have to be kosher. You can't take your strings and then tie them right and then snip at the end, so then it's really 8 strings. You have to do that before you tie any of the knots. It can't happen afterwards. She'im karach afilu chulya echad, because if you made already 1 little twist or 1 knot, Rama says pirush achelek matzitzit sheben kesher lekesher, maybe it's Maran, that the chuliot are not knots. How do you say knot in Hebrew?
Knot.
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 K-N-O-T.
Oh, that knot.
Kesher.
Kesher, yeah.
Kesher is the knot. Barry, can you show us the tzitzit behind you? It's easier to display. Okay, you see the knots? In between the knots are little twists. Those twists are called chuliot. Chulia is literally a vertebrae in someone's spine. So it's like the spine of the tzitzit. וקשר אפילו קשר אחד ואחר כך חתכם פסול משום תעשה ולא מן העשוי שהרי בפיסול הסעם. Says basically you have to make sure you have 8 kosher strings before you tie the tzitziot, and not 4 strings that you then tie and then cut them, because then your tzitziot will not be kosher. Let's look on page 267. Underneath the 2 lines there's an interesting halakha.
hard to tell where the commentary is referring to because the way it's spaced out.
It's not exactly.
Not exactly.
Yes. Okay. Under the two lines, there's a little membet. Do you see that? Membet. When you cut the strings in order to make them four, it's proper to cut it with your teeth, and not with metal.
Is that similar to the thing at the Beit HaMikdash?
Very good. That's exactly it. If you turn back to page 247,
is that how it's done now?
They used plastic scissors or glass scissors.
Not a
Things like
technicality,
that.
but
Page.
No, but it's justified as kids. I always used to bite with my teeth. I used to break
And that was a don't break your teeth. Right? 247.
And I can say
240.
Go back to page. Keep your finger here and go back to page 247. Footnote Nun. The rabbis who say this, that you cannot cut your teeth with metal, are the following. This is the list of them.
Where's Nun?
Nun is the bottom, the last two lines of the right column.
Oh, okay.
See that?
In Rashi's script.
Yeah, in Rashi's script. Shla, Rabbi Yishaya Levi Horowitz, an Ashkenazi Kabbalist. Mateh Moshe, the top of the next column.
Kitzur, say to use or not to use?
Not to use metal. V'kitzur Shla, the abridged version of the Shla. V'huvau divrei hashla b'magen Avraham. And the words of the Shla are quoted by the Magen Avraham, an Ashkenazi commentary in Shulchan Aruch. V'chen katav b'shirei Knesset HaGdolah. And he writes here, "V'katav she'ein ha'olam nizharim b'zeh ela b'nei aliyah." Says most people are not careful, and they're not particular about this halakha, except for those who are very holy. Meaning it's a Kabbalistic thing, and not everyone is on the same page. V'chen katvu ha'teret zakenim v'ha'be'er heitev. These are all rabbis who wrote it. V'shulchan Aruch ha'gaon Rabbi Zalman. The Shulchan Aruch of the genius Rabbi Zalman. Who's that?
Shneur Zalman, say.
Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi.
Yeah, it's the Chabad.
I wish when they quoted my rabbis, they also used the word Gaon. V'ha'el Rabbah, and the El Rabbah, v'hamachzik bracha, v'chesed alefim. You know what chesed alefim is?
That's the name of a book.
It's the name of a book on Kabbalistic halakha, written by
Shulchan Aruch.
no, the Peleoites, Rabbi Eliezer Papo, the same Peleoites we study here in Shabbat afternoon. He wrote a book of Kabbalistic halakha called the Chesed Alefim. Uvekaf HaChaim Palaji. The Kaf HaChaim Palaji was written by Rabbi Chaim Palaji. It's not this Kaf HaChaim. This is called Kaf HaChaim Sofer, written by Rabbi Yaakov Chaim Sofer. They're both Sephardic books of halakha and Kabbalah. The Kaf HaChaim Palaji is its own book. It's kind of like a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. It's not a commentary or anything. The Kaf HaChaim here is a Sephardic Kabbalistic commentary on Shulchan Aruch. And so this is a different style of book, and sometimes you see Kaf HaChaim, you have to know which one. So we're careful to write either Kaf HaChaim Sofer or Kaf HaChaim Palaji. This book, actually, is enough. This is volume 1, but the last volume of the book, Rabbi Yaakov Chaim Sofer passed away while he was writing it. And the son of Rabbi Yaakov Chaim Sofer asked a young man, who was a brilliant Torah scholar in his time, he asked him to continue writing the book until the end, as if he were his father. So ignore his own personal halachot and write them as if you were my father. And he did it. And that man later grew up to be known as Rabbi Ovadia Yosef.
Wow.
So the last volume of this book is technically one of Rabbi Ovadia's first books.
But he
That
wrote,
he
it in a
wrote
different
as
identity.
if someone else was writing it.
Yeah, he acted as a different identity.
Now, there's a grandson of this author, Rabbi Yaakov Chaim Sofer. He's still alive now. The reason why the print looks like this is because until last year he refused to allow them to reprint it. The reason he refused? I bought this about 2 weeks before they printed the new one. For years we've been breaking our eyes with this text, and I spent all the money on this set. I don't have the new set. Hashem will help me for next time. I saved for like 10 years to buy this set, and then I bought it, and then I got this. I got this print. Nobody wants the old ones anymore. But what happened is he believes that Rav Ovadia Yosef is a he didn't like Rav Ovadia Yosef so much. Suffice it to say that he was not as great of a Torah scholar as him, and he was very upset that Rav Ovadia Yosef thought that he wrote the last volume, and you got it all wrong, and he spent most of his life fighting against Rav Ovadia Yosef and refused to allow them to print it if they were going to print the last volume of it. And because he was the copyright holder, I don't know what changed last year. I don't know if they printed the last volume or not, but suffice it to say that somebody put him on the side.
What about the compassion and the this and everything
How
we
about
learn?
Israel?
He clearly wasn't a Torah scholar.
Everyone, all of them.
I don't know if it's not like fighting. It's more like they're
Refuse to
seeking like an ultimate level of what's true in a situation, and it's permissible to go back and forth about it until you get to it. This one says this, and you hope you sharpen each other's mind. You get closer and closer and closer.
No, I get that, but you're talking about can't print my book.
But it's not because of an ego.
Well, I think that was because of. I think he
Yeah.
wasn't the same. Like, he was not a. We wouldn't call him the most spiritual of. And he didn't have really a following because of his negative personality. He's still alive somewhere. I don't know who he is. But
It's about the later guy. Not
not Rav Ovadia or the grandson. I'm talking about the grandson.
The author's grandson.
I'm sure forgive me if I made a mistake, but from what I understood from the whole story, he's not the hero of the story. At the end of the day, the Jews just want to learn, so let them reprint the books, let them study Torah. I don't understand in general, you're not really allowed to have a copyright on a Jewish book. Judaism doesn't have laws of copyright. It's one of the few things, intellectual property cannot be claimed in Judaism.
But you have to have haskamot.
Haskamot are approving the content of the book. And what the Jews, especially in Europe, this was a European tactic, what the Jews did was they would get the rabbi who was approving the book to put in cherem and excommunicate anybody who within the next 10 years printed the book. So if you look in the Tanya, the beginning of the Tanya says, this is a great, wonderful book, and the end of every letter says, and anybody who prints this book outside of the Schneerson family for the next 10 years should be excommunicated from the Jewish community. That's the only way to enforce a copyright. After 10 years, it was free for all. Everybody has the right to print it, and that's what happened with the Shas. And there are a number of, if you know anything about printing in Europe, there was a fight between the Vilna press and the Slavita press. They were trying to figure out who had the rights on the Shas, and whatever else was happening there.
North Africa?
What?
What about North Africa?
I don't recall seeing any such things. Going to take someone else's work and then printing it and making money off it is kind of a nasty thing to do. But let's say after the person passes away, or the book is no longer...
Were they like beyond... Maybe Sephardim were printing before Gutenberg, and Gutenberg got all this credit. Maybe they had their own press.
I don't know. I don't know the history behind it as much as it just... You can't really hold something to be your own. So, like in my book, I wrote that if someone's going to be photocopying it for Torah classes or for learning Torah, they have my permission to do so. I can't...
that's called fair use in copyright law.
Okay, good. So I don't know much about copyright law, but...
If you make copies to teach, and there's a limit of how many you can make per book.
It's funny, because there's a famous Rambam translated to English, and I know somebody who once asked the author, the translator, he said, the many yeshivas, they buy one book and they photocopy the pages for the rest of the students around the table, 6, 7 students. And he said, those people are stealing my livelihood. Because if it wasn't for them, they would buy more books.
So
I don't know. I don't know what the...
What's the objection to copyright law?
In Judaism, to own something, it has to be in your possession. In your possession means in a physical possession, in a place where you own. You can't write something and then throw it out into the street and still own it. Meaning, the Jewish law of possession is not an intellectual law; it's an actual reality. Possession. If you put it out somewhere, it's no longer yours.
What do you mean by putting it out?
You printed a book; it's now on 300 bookstore shelves. Is it really? Maybe that you own the paper. You might own the content.
It means
of
your book is no longer yours now.
The content of it technically is not really mine.
So you can't get royalties on the book.
No, that's not what it means. If I own all the books. They're all in my house now. If somebody wants to take them from me, and the condition of taking them from me is they're going to pay me for half of it later down the road, I'm allowed to make such a thing. I own it today. But the content inside the book, technically, if someone were to photocopy it, they wouldn't be violating a halakha. They would be violating a copyright law, which is why the real argument for Jewish copyrights is that the non-Jews don't allow it. Meaning, the government doesn't allow it, and therefore you have to, as a Jew, respect the law of the land.
But there's a halakha that you're not allowed to claim someone else's work as your own. You always have to quote your sources.
Of course. But let me give you a concept. There are books that have been out of print for 200 years.
Yeah, but
is there anything now? I know even copyright law has
that's called the common domain. I mean,
right. Many books that went out into the common domain. That's true. But use your scenarios. In any case, this man was holding the copyright over everybody's head.
Yeah.
Let's finish this list of rabbis who say this. There are rabbis today who argue there is such a thing as intellectual property in Judaism. They definitely exist. Aruch Peretz gave a class of about an hour about it, and he didn't really believe that there was such a thing.
I bought a Piamenta CD years ago. In the back it says, "Do not reproduce," or
So the question is, can he take you?
There's a tikkun of this
Can
or
he
that,
take you to Beit Din for that? If you come to Beit Din, says you stole my music, can he actually get something from you?
You're asking me.
According to Aruch Peretz, Beit Din, there's not much they can do. You didn't steal his music. You didn't go to his house and take his music.
It's such a narrow idea, though. I mean, it's an object, but music is broader than that.
This is, of course, one of the big machloket in the world now with streaming music and downloading and this and that. They have the artist own the music, and
if it's yours, and you're careful that nobody should be able to record it or photocopy it, then don't put it somewhere where somebody can.
Well, then no one will read the book.
No one will listen to the Beatles.
No one will
So part of the cost of putting out I'll tell you, this goes the other way. There's a famous Rabbi Akiva Eger. Dan says that his great-great-granddaughter lives here in La Jolla somewhere.
Yeah, we have to pour him or something.
Rabbi Akiva Eger was one of the giants in Ashkenaz. In his diary, he writes, listen, you do with it what you want. They say, I don't know if he wrote, his students wrote, that he decided at some point in his life, he had this crisis, everything he wrote must be sheker, it's lies. He was feeling not confident in the Torah that he wrote. And so he decided, it was on Shabbat, Motzei Shabbat, he was going to burn all of his handwritten manuscripts. It's not the first time in our history such a thing has happened. More often than not, it was other people burning our manuscripts, not people burning their own manuscripts, but I believe Rabbi Nachman did something similar, though I don't remember seeing if I saw that in a book or not. On Motzei Shabbat, as he was about to burn his writings in the fireplace, Eliyahu Hanavi appears at his door and tells him that you don't own these books anymore. Once you wrote them on paper, they become the collective property of the Jewish people. And if Hashem gave you the power to write and the knowledge to put on paper, you don't have the right to take it away from them. And they actually, Rabbi Akiva Eger says, the reason he printed his books was because he didn't have a choice. Do with that story what you wish.
Yeah,
I'm just sharing it with you.
Can I ask a quick question? Why the reason why metal is not allowed to cut is because metal is used for war?
Oh, very good. It seems like, and it's not written here, but I remember this when I was younger, reading in the Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai says something about it. According to Kabbalah, the tzitzit are on the same level as the altar in the temple, the Mizbeach. Don't ask me how or why, what the connection between the two are. I can look it up and come back with it next week if you like. And he says, just like you can't use iron on the altar in the temple, you also can't use iron on the tzitziot. Now the origin of this law is clearly the Shla. Before the Shla Kadosh, Rabbi Yishai Levi Horowitz, we don't seem to have a record of this. And so you have to look it up in the source, but we can see in just a minute if you like.
How they cut them now? Ceramic or
ceramic, glass, teeth, I don't know, plastic, the scissors the kids use at school. I've seen them cut tzitziot with those as well.
Don't they have metal in them?
Now he mentions the Ben Ish Chai, he mentions the Kavachaim, the Mishnah Brura, so that's the Chavetz Chaim. And these are not just Sephardic or Ashkenaz, these are like from the whole realm of halachot.
Frame, but not the
they have a metal
cutting
frame.
surface, but the cutting
just the cutting surface should not be metal. Saying.
Yeah, that's what I think is going on.
If you give me 1 second, I have that Kavachaim here. He mentions the Kavachaim, the regular one. Seif Katan Yud Zayin and Seif Katan Lamed Tet. Just give me 1 second and we'll pray. Seif Katan.
Yes, stuffy.
It's an air.
Oh, interesting. He says, according to Kabbalah, actually, you have 32 teeth. And your 32 teeth correspond to the 32 strands that are inside of your tzitzit string. And so he believes that there is actually, it's not just not using metal, but it's specifically cutting with your teeth.
Huh. That's
the Shla's original.
Might not be so good for your teeth.
Well, if you have perfect tzitzit, you should have no tooth decay.
You sure he's not meaning?
Well, if you do it every night.
I have one sharp tooth that's always cutting my floss. Floss
yeah, right.
cut, and I forgot to take out another one, start over. So
So that means you should sit.
I mean, I'm in business. Yeah,
I want to go see if I can get. I don't own a copy of the Shla, but maybe I could find one online or something. I'll look up the source and we'll do it next time.